In this session, we will discuss about the awareness of the plagiarism, the comprehensive details about the plagiarism and respective consequences and other things in the academic writing. Let's begin with the basic definition of the plagiarism. What is plagiarism? The plagiarism is known as when we copy someone else's ideas or information text and present them as ours without citing the sources. That is called plagiarism. When we copy someone else's ideas, thoughts, figures, charts, diagrams, music, video, data, anything, without citing the original sources or giving credits to them, this is called plagiarism. There are several types of plagiarism. It is divided under two major categories. First one is intentional plagiarism. And under intentional plagiarism, there are several types such as verbatim plagiarism, paraphrasing without citing the sources, mosaic plagiarism, ghostwriting, self-plagiarism, multi-posting, source plagiarism, inadequate authorship, unethical collaborations, translation without citing the sources. We will take a look at each individual type of plagiarism under this category of intentional plagiarism. There is another broader umbrella which is called unintentional plagiarism, which also has several types. Such as, let's say, the first one is when we forget to cite a reference. That comes under unintentional plagiarism. We are not doing it purposefully, but we forgot. Sometimes we provide incorrect citations. Sometimes we forget to quote, put the quotation marks for the information which we have directly copied, right? And cite. Sometimes we forget to put the footnotes. Often what we do, we pick up the information from multiple sources and put them in our research paper or book or monograph article anywhere, and we forget to, we cited everything, but we have taken all the information from multiple sources. There is very little novelty in that. That is called stretching the sources. Often what we do is when we do the paraphrasing, we change the meaning of this. This will lead to incorrect paraphrasing. So these are the major types of unintentional plagiarism. If we look at the basic definition of intentional plagiarism, which says intentional plagiarism occurs when authors purposefully copy the information text, figures, images, diagrams, videos, data, other things without giving the credits to the source author intentionally. Whereas on the other hand, unintentional plagiarism occurs when the authors is unaware of writing ethics and other things, or sometimes we are aware but unintentionally we forget to follow these best practices such as citations and other things in our writing. Then that comes under unintentional plagiarism. Intentional plagiarism, often known as the conscious plagiarism. Intentional plagiarism, also known as the conscious plagiarism, because we do it knowingly. We knowingly present someone else's ideas or works. Whereas unintentional plagiarism is also known as unconscious plagiarism. Because we do it unknowingly. We present someone else's ideas or work as ours unknowingly without being aware of the writing ethics. Those are the types what we have already seen, which is verbatim or direct plagiarism, paraphrasing without citing the sources, mosaic plagiarism, ghostwriting, self-plagiarism, multi-posting, source plagiarism, inadequate authorship, collusion or unethical collaborations, undeclared contributions, translation without citing the sources, and there are so each type we'll take a look in more detail. On the other hand, unintentional plagiarism, as we have seen, we sometimes forget to cite or we provide incorrect citations or source referencing, forgot to quote, forgot to write the footnotes, resourceful citer or staging the sources, and incorrect paraphrasing. So these are the major types of both the types of plagiarism. So these are the altogether these are the major types of plagiarism. Let's begin with intentional plagiarism. Intentional plagiarism occurs when the authors intentionally copy the source material without giving them the credits, without citing them. Even though they are aware of the writing ethics, still they do that. So this is called the intentional plagiarism. The first type is verbatim or direct plagiarism. Verbatim or a direct plagiarism occurs when we copy the information directly from the source material and paste it in our document without giving the credits to the original authors. When we copy the material or information directly, it could be any form, it could be text, videos, images, diagrams, correct, or maybe music, videos, data, anything. And we do not give them the original authors, we do not give them the appropriate credit. That is called verbatim or direct plagiarism. It could be a complete copy or a partial copy also. Sometimes we do the copy purposefully, including text, images, diagrams, pictures, music, videos, charts, and it is applicable to everywhere. When we do not give the cites, when we do not give the citations and do not cite the original sources, the authors, then it is coming under that particular case. If we want to use any of the published material in our publications, we have to take the permission from the respective publishers in writing. We have to take the license from the publisher, then and only then we can reuse. There are reuse licenses available which publishers grant, and then we can reuse, but not before that. And definitely we have to cite the sources. When we submit different students, they will submit the assignments, project reports, term papers. Now, though they also copy from multiple sources, they copy from the internet or from their friends' work, right? That is also coming under the same type of plagiarism, which is called a direct plagiarism or a verbatim plagiarism. So we have to be original in our writing, right? We have to be original in our writing, and we have to write everything in our own words to avoid this. We have to paraphrase the borrowed content and the cite wherever it is possible. If we are taking the exact information without changing anything, we have to put that information in the quotation marks and cite the source. This is the way. Let's take one demo exercise and see how this happens. So this is one piece of writing. So you can see these two information segments are copied from some of the sources. And when I put them in my document and upload on Turnitin and check, it highlights and says that these are the highly plagiarized content and these two are the segments which are copied from the following sources. Now this is a case of direct plagiarism. How can we overcome this? We have to be original always in our writing. We can write the information in our own word followed by the citation. So paraphrasing followed by the citation is the key for this. We have to give the credits as well as we have to write in our own words. Then it won't be considered as a plagiarism. If we are taking a direct copy from somewhere, what we have to do is we have to put that information in the quotation marks. So if you look at this paragraph, I have rewritten or paraphrased it and I cited the source. So this particular source number 1 is listed at the bottom of the slide. If you are writing a research paper, it should be at the end of the paper, or when we are presenting any slides or when we are making any slides, that reference should be at the bottom of the slide, as a footnote. It cannot be at the last slide. Some of the people, they do at the end references, and these are the list of references, but which is not a correct way for presentations. For presentations, it should be at the bottom of the slide. In this section, we'll take a look at the paraphrasing without citing the sources. So let's say I have done the paraphrasing. I am taking the information or borrowing the information from a particular source. I have rewritten that in my own words, but I am not citing that source for n number of reasons intentionally. Paraphrasing doesn't mean, or it doesn't alter the meaning that information is copied from somewhere else, right? Paraphrasing doesn't change the meaning or doesn't mean that we haven't copied. Still, the information is taken from somewhere else. So we must acknowledge the original authors. We must acknowledge the original authors and give them the credits. However, in this particular case, if you take a look, I have paraphrased. So I am not expecting anti-plagiarism software to detect my information segments. Here it will fail to detect that information. So anti-plagiarism software may not be able to detect this paraphrased content. However, the original authors, right, those who are holding the copyrights, or the publisher, those who are holding the copyrights, they may demand for ratification for the breach of copyrights, because the information we have copied but did not cite. Though we have paraphrased, but it doesn't mean that it is our information, so we must cite. It could be a paraphrased information taken from one particular source, or it could be from multiple sources also, such as mosaic plagiarism or a patchwork, right? It could be from the multiple sources also. Now, if you look at these particular two segments are copied from so and so sources, right? And what I have done is I have paraphrased to eliminate the highlights given by the anti-plagiarism software. So then I ran through Turnitin, and I see here there is no mark of plagiarism. There are no highlights of plagiarism. However, the content is still plagiarized because I did not cite. So the best way is to paraphrase followed by the citations. We have to give the proper credits to the original sources, right? So here I have paraphrased the information, and then I have cited that. In this section, we'll take a look at paraphrasing using AI tool. This is something emerging these days a lot. We use the AI tools to paraphrase the information. Such as, let's say, I am using either ChatGPT, Quillbolt or WordTune to rewrite the content what I am taking from any particular paper or any other source material. Now, this helps in improve the clarity and avoid the redundancy, definitely, and it helps us to speed up our writing process. It'll help us in establishing a quick workflow on the paraphrasing. However, most of the AI tools, they do not cite the sources. So AI generated content or AI generated paraphrasing. So let's say some of the text I am asking AI tools such as ChatGPT to rewrite for me, to paraphrase for me. However, using AI generated paraphrasing without crediting the source authors or without citing the source authors is a plagiarism. Definitely people use AI tools as an assistant. However, it's still a plagiarism. Why this is considered as a plagiarism? Because it's a failure to credit the source. The idea remains the same. Even the words are changed by AI tools, right? So let's say if we are rewriting manually, that means we are doing paraphrasing manually. Now, to speed up that, people use AI tools. However, they do not cite because that content is generated by AI. It has altered the words and rewriting. Meaning could be same, but the citations are not given. So that is called the intellectual theft. Changing the words doesn't mean that idea is ours, right? Idea is published in the source materials, and we must cite them. Bypassing the plagiarism detectors. Now, when AI generates text which is rewritten or words are altered, it may not be detected by the anti-plagiarism software. But still it's unoriginal. Right? Academic integrity violation. So this particular case, universities or institutes view this AI paraphrasing without citation as a misconduct. If you are using an AI tool for paraphrasing, which is sometimes okay, publishers, they allow at least maybe 20 or 30% of usage of, I'm not sure about the percentage exactly, but there is a provision that we can use AI tool up to certain limit. However, if you are using it for paraphrasing, we must cite the sources. Otherwise it is still a case of plagiarism. Let's take one example and see. So you can take a look, this particular sentence Here is, let's say, climate change is accelerating at an unprecedented rate, causing extreme weather events and biodiversity loss worldwide, right? This is published in particular article, which is Smith 2020. This particular line, you can see I am asking my AI tool to rewrite. So let's say, for an example, we use the chat GPT and copy paste this in chat GPT and ask it to rewrite. Now it will rewrite within a second or few, and it will give me a paraphrased version of the information. You can see this is the rewritten information, keeping the meaning same. Now it is not changing or altering the meaning. The meaning is exactly same, but the wordings are changed and it is rewritten as we do it manually, same way AI tools do it. Now this particular case, Turnitin or any other anti-plagiarism software will not be able to detect. However, still it is a case of plagiarism. Because we are not citing the sources. Please note, if we are using AI tools under certain limits, we must cite the sources and we have to cross-check everything. Sometimes there is a good plugin with ChatGPT which is called SciSpace. You can use SciSpace with ChatGPT to provide the citations. This is a good provision. You can use both the tools simultaneously back and forth. Why is this still a plagiarism? Because the meaning and the structure remains same, so there is no issue with that. The words are altered, but the meaning remains same. However, it is still plagiarism because references are not given, references are not cited, right? And how do we overcome this issue? So always cite the original source even when paraphrasing. It could be an AI tool-based paraphrasing or manual paraphrasing, doesn't matter. Always cite. You can use AI tools as an assistant, not as a replacement for critical thinking. We have to verify all AI generated content manually for factual accuracy and originality, right? We have to manually cross-check everything and cite each and every information. And we have to follow the institutional guidelines on the use of AI in academic writings, right? So some of the institutes, they do not allow AI tools for writing, so in that case we should not use it. Some of the publishers, they do not allow AI tools in writing, so we should not use it, right? Some of the publishers, they may allow for 20% or they ask for the disclosure. So it depends on what's the publication policy. So accordingly, we have to tune and overcome this type of plagiarism. Next is the mosaic plagiarism. In this, what we do is we assemble multiple short text segments from various sources without citations. And what we do is we rephrase them also, right? We do the paraphrasing also. People use AI tools for doing this one very easily. They can do the paraphrasing, and we do not acknowledge the sources. So always we have to, or we must cite the sources or the original authors from where the text is borrowed, from where the information is borrowed. Now, sometimes what we do is we just list all the sources in the reference list. Mostly the beginners or the new students, they used to do this. They just list all the sources in the reference list and they do not cite. However, it is not sufficient, right? We must cite them at an appropriate source wherever it is relevant and wherever it is used in the writing of the major body of the paper or book or any other article which we are writing. This is called a mosaic plagiarism. If you take one example and see, so you can see these all are highlighted segments which are taken from multiple sources. And I have just stuffed them here and I'm not citing them intentionally. Now here, take a look. I have identified using Turnitin that these are the copied segments, right? So what I do, the best solution to this is we have to be firstly novel in our problems and solutions, what we are working on. Then we have to express our ideas in our own words, and always we have to paraphrase and cite. And we have to use the quotation marks if we are citing somewhere. So now you can take a look. Here we can see these are the citations which I have provided, and I have paraphrased the entire information. All the segments, I have paraphrased them and provided the appropriate citations. Here, you can check these numbers at the bottom of the slides. These are the citations from where I took the information segments, and I've just rephrased them. In this section, we will discuss about the ghost writing. In this section, we will discuss about the ghost writing. Ghost writing is known as when we purchase the article written by someone and we just put our names there as the authors and we publish, right? That is called ghost writing. So many times people do that to publish many papers in a shorter time frame or to meet the yearly institutional criteria. Often academicians purchase the articles which are written by someone or those who are ghostwriters or paper publishing industries, correct? And we buy the authorship and we publish, which is highly unethical. Often students do that. They purchase the solved assignments, projects, term papers, research articles written by someone, and then they submit for their courseworks or maybe for their research works, right? This is also unethical and which is called ghostwriting. In this section, we will discuss about the self-plagiarism. Now, if you look at this, when we are writing or when we are working on something, sometimes we are attached to that particular work, and when we write a new work or when we propose a new work, some of the content would be similar to our older work, right? So we often copy the content from our previously published books, articles, chapters, project proposals, term papers, reports, etc. And our new article or new work would be again similar to that or nearby that, right? And the next thing is sometimes we do not acknowledge our own previous works also, right? Firstly, there is no new novel contribution. Let's say if our work is a progressive work and our new work contains, let's say 60 to 70% of novel improvement compared to our earlier work, then it could be possible we can do in that way. But let's say there is no novelty and we do not cite that our previous work also and we just publish, then it's called a self-plagiarism. Both of them, they look exactly the similar, right? Submitting one article to, let's say, multiple journals or conferences, that is also one type of multi-posting, right? Framing multiple articles from a single paper by minor changes. Let's say I got one article, I do minor changes, and then I create another paper or submit it to another journal or conference, right, or another platform. Submitting the same project proposal to multiple funding agencies, that is again a case of multi-posting. Students often do the same project report or term paper assignments to multiple courses if there is any overlap. This is one example you can see here. We can take a look. The left hand side is the original published paper or article, and what I have done is I've just added minor tweaks and changes, and then I'm trying to publish across the second publisher, right? So with minor changes and for a new submission. So you can see this is called self-plagiarism, which is again intentional. I'm doing it purposefully, which is highly unethical. We cannot do this kind of things. Multi-posting is one type of that. Again, comes under intentional plagiarism. To get a quick response, the authors submit one papers to multiple journals. Let's say I have written a journal paper or a conference paper or any book chapter. What I'll do is I'll submit to multiple journals, correct? Multiple publishers. This is called multi-posting. To get the quick response. What I was expecting is whoever says yes, I will put it to them, and then the rest of the submissions I will withdraw. This is highly unethical. We should not be doing this. Journals have their plagiarism and multi-posting checkers in their database. They can easily identify. Sometimes what happens, the reviewers are common, right? The reviewers are common across multiple publishers. So if you put one article across multiple journals, that may happen that it goes to the same reviewers. Now that reviewer will say, okay, I have received from journal X as well as I have received from journal Y, and then it's a conflict because that reviewer will raise a flag and says that this is not acceptable. Consequently, the author may be blacklisted and barred from the future submissions. Consequently, authors may be barred or blacklisted for future submissions if that case is detected. Similarly, we do for funding agencies also. What we do is we submit one project proposal to multiple funding agencies to get the quick response, right? So let's say I have written a project proposal, I'll submit it to funding agency 1, 2, and 3. Here also they have multi-posting checker. Furthermore, that could be the case that reviewers will be same, right? Let's say it goes to 5 reviewers. And out of those 5, one is same across 2 funding agencies, right? So if he or she will receive the same proposal from 2 funding agencies, and then will say, okay, it's a red flag. I am receiving this from multiple funding agencies. That PI has submitted this proposal to multiple funding agencies, right? So which is highly unethical. We cannot do that. We can submit at one funding agency only. Now, let's say if the funding agency is not responding in time, what we can do is we can write to them and reach out to them and say, would you please let us know when the results will be out, or when we are announcing the results, or no, please let us know if it is accepted, rejected soon, so that we can upload to other funding agency. That is possible, but not without approval from them, right? Consequently, if they find out this, then the authors may be blacklisted and they may be banned from future submissions, right? Same thing happens with this one also. Let's say the authors will split one paper into the smaller versions. Authors will split one paper into the smaller versions. Let's say version 1, 2, 3. At least there should be, let's say, 60 to 70% of new contribution. If we are extending, let's say I have published one paper in a conference, and then I am extending with additional works by 70% or 60% and putting in a comprehensive journal article, which is okay. But let's say without that new contribution, this is unethical. Next plagiarism type is called source plagiarism. This sometimes new students do that, maybe undergraduate or the master students, those who have just joined. They do not understand the meaning of this entire reference list. It's just a list of some text, right? For them, they do not understand the meaning of this. The meaning of this one is we give the credits to the original authors, those who have put lots of efforts in conducting that particular research, right? And made it available to us. We give the credits to the publishers also, because they worked hard in publishing the materials, finding the good research and making it available for the society. So it's a job to credit them. And most of the journals, they measure the impact factor and cite scores, which are measured based on these references. Most of the authors, their research credibility and their research outcomes impact is measured by the citations. So their citation counts are so important, they'll be used across everywhere to measure the impact of a researcher, to tune the future direction of the research. It will be linked to their promotions and growth also, right? So we must cite that. So mostly what we do is, the students, those who are joining new, generally they write the paper. What they do is they directly copy paste the entire list of references from somewhere and put it in their own paper without even citing or knowing what their reference is, because they just want to fill this list. They just want to fill this list because this list is needed, right? So they go to 2-3 papers, just copy paste from there, Generally, beginners often copy the references from the published article and they stuff them in their bibliography without relevance or citing them. The next type is inadequate authorship. In research, constructive collaboration or joint works are always appreciated. Definitely, we have to do that, the joint collaboration and other things. However, it is important to disclose and acknowledge all the collaborators. Whatever the contributions are coming from, let's say, the other authors or co-authors, or the support coming from anyone, right? We have to put them either as the authors if the work contribution is sizable, or we have to acknowledge them under the acknowledge sections, right? If we don't do that, this is unethical. And definitely the joint collaborations and the co-authorships are common in academic and industries. It's highly appreciated, but sometimes it may lead to the unethical practices, which we will see soon. Right? We cannot just publish, let's say, now this is highly unethical, we cannot just publish under solo authorship if there are multiple contributors in the presented work, right? Because, see, other authors also have contributed sizable work in our article or paper. We cannot just remove their names and publish the works in our solo authorship. Therefore, we must acknowledge the respective collaborators and include them as suitable authors if their contribution is sizable. Furthermore, designating additional co-authors without significant contribution to the articles is again unethical. What I do is, let's say I put my friend's name in my article. My friend will put my name as a co-author in his article or her article, and then we do the push-pull, right? without any collaboration. Now the collaboration is extremely useful. What I do is, let's say I invite my friend or my colleague to take a look at my script or our ongoing work to help us improve the quality. Extremely useful, right? And extremely appreciated. We have to do in that way. Sometimes international collaborations are expected because it helps in improving the quality of the ongoing research. However, just stuffing their names as co-authors is extremely unethical, right? We should not be doing this. Now, this is the case. You can take a look. Let's say we have worked with multiple co-authors and we have written an article, or maybe let's say they worked and I have written an article. But let's say this is the best case of master students. We work with the master students and we write the research articles with them. Now, master students typically will be here for 2 years. After that, they will go. Sometimes UG students also may write a conference paper for us. So with them, let's say if we write an article. Now, once they are passed out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove their names and just keep my name in the article, right? And take the entire credit of this article, which is extremely unethical. We shouldn't be doing this because they are the actual authors, or they are the actual collaborators, the students, those who really did that groundwork for along with the faculty. So it is our job to include them, right? It is our job to include them, and then it's ethical to put their names and publish under the multiple along with the multiple authors, correct? So this is one case. Now, second case, you can take a look. Let's say I have written an article, and what I'm doing, I'm putting one of my friends' name in this particular research paper. I'm putting one of my friends' name in this particular research paper. Again, this is extremely unethical. We cannot do that. We cannot put randomly, right, without any contribution, right, adding favorable authors for mutual benefits or commercial gain. Sometimes we take the money and put the co-author's name. That is also extremely unethical. This is also extremely unethical. We should refrain from doing this kind of unethical practices in research and academics. Next is called collusion. Now, in this collusion, it's kind of an unethical collaboration among the groups of students. Students do this often. We may observe that. What they do is they allow others to copy the assignments, term papers, project reports, etc. from their work. Let's say I have written a lab report or maybe the assignment or something else. I allow my friends or other batchmates to copy from me. This is called unethical collaboration or collusion. That comes under intentional plagiarism again. Right? Because let's say the master thesis or something, correct? So two students are working on a similar problem which has a divergence of 50%. But most of them content in the beginning of the introduction and other things will be same because they copy from each other. This is highly unethical because they have to submit a plagiarism report to the institute or university, right? Now, definitely, see, constructive collaboration, working jointly is extremely useful and appreciated because it will help us to improve the quality. However, copying is not a case because all the students, they will be evaluated individually. We have to grade them individually, right? So the collaboration becomes collusion if there is a direct copy event, right? Same thing, collusion will occur with a group of people in the working professional also. What they do is they establish unethical research collaborations. They include each other's names as the co-authors. Right? What they do is they cite each other's papers without any relevance to increase the citation counts. Let's say I want to increase my citation count, and my friend also wants to increase his citation count. What we do is we have kind of an unsaid mutual understanding, right? That when I publish a paper, I put his name as my authors, or I cite his papers in my paper, right? I put either his name under my article as an author, or I keep citing his, let's say, older papers, 5-6 papers, to boost his citation count. And same thing he will do it to increase my benefits, right? This is called unethical collusion, or that is again an intentional plagiarism kind. Now, let's say this is one more corner points, right? Let's say I have a PhD passing out, and what I'm going to do is I have to kick him out so that I can get the promotions, or I can pass my more number of PhD students out in the field, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send his thesis for an evaluation to the favorable examiners. Those faculties, those who are starting, they may not have faced this case, but those faculties, those who are working from, let's say, 5-10 years, they might have faced that case. What we do is we send the PhD thesis to the favorable examiners so that they can get him quickly out, right, without much trouble. Now, this is again something, there is no quantified measurement of exactly how ethical it is and how unethical it is, but this is something, right, which we observe among the working professionals also. So one must understand the difference between the collaboration and collusion. One must understand the difference between the collaboration and collusion. Sooner we understand this, better it is for the professional growth. The next type of the plagiarism is translation. Next type of the plagiarism is associated with the translation. Now let's say we acquired an idea from a source material which is published in some other language. We acquired an idea and translated that into some other language, which is actually the origin of that language is something else. So let's say some of the slokas are taken from Sanskrit or maybe some other language from where in which they are published. And what I'm doing is I'm just translating it. So let's say I have found out one research article written in some other language, right? We may not be able to detect this language, but let's say this is one source language, the original work. I have just translated the entire article and now I'm trying to publish it. Correct? Without referencing it even, let's say, right? This is called plagiarism. Without referencing it, I'm trying to publish it. So this is again a case of plagiarism. We must acknowledge the source author or original work and reference it in which the original language, that material has been published. This is the translation work, right? Translated work. And the credit what we get here is the translation credit. I could be appointed as a translating author or I can claim the credit as a translating author. But what is my job is I have to cite the original source in which it is published, the language, original language and the source or authors with this article was published, right? So we have to cite them, and this is the translated work, so I can just claim the translation credits. Next major umbrella was unintentional plagiarism. There are 6 major types of them. The basic definition of unintentional plagiarism is the authors commit unintentional plagiarism when they are unaware of the writing ethics in research and publications. Or sometimes we are aware, we are trained writers. However, sometimes we forget because of the human errors, which is okay. That's why it is called unconscious plagiarism. Also, because we do it unknowingly. Sometimes we unknowingly present someone else's ideas or works as ours, right? And no, that's why there is a percentage, let's say 15 or 20% of plagiarism margin is allowed by any of the publishers because of the human error. Sometimes we may miss or forget to cite. Sometimes there are common words, right? There are 6 major types. Such as, let's say, misleading citations. Sometimes we forget to cite. We forgot to quote and cite, right? We forgot to write the footnotes. The resourceful citer was stitching the sources. Incorrect paraphrasing. These are the major 6 types of unintentional plagiarism. Let's say one by one. So first one is the incorrect citations or source referencing. So let's say I am citing the material, but I have cited incorrectly. Let's say the numbers are not correct. I made a mistake when citing. The numbers are not correct. Misleading citations, right? I'm unable to locate that source. Insufficient information. Maybe I forgot to cite the journal's name or conference's names or name or book's name, right? So I'll not be able to locate that particular citation from where it's coming. Insufficient detail. Sometimes I forgot to, let's say, put the page numbers or volume number, issue number, or maybe journal's name, or maybe the author's name I forgot. Some of them are missed, right? So this kind of mistakes are coming under this umbrella, which is called incorrect citations or source referencing, right? So let's say there is one more type called forgot to cite. This is unintentional. The presented information is paraphrased. I did the paraphrasing. I'm not copying. My intentions are not to copy. I paraphrased also. But when citing, there are a lot of papers. Let's say I'm writing a review article, and maybe if I'm referring to 100 or 200 articles or papers, I forgot one or two of them, right? So I paraphrased, but I forgot. This is coming under unintentional plagiarism. And sometimes, let's say, if it is found out, publisher may request to cite, or the original authors may raise a copyright strike with a request to cite without any severe consequences. They may ask us to cite the article or revise, right? Plagiarism checker or anti-plagiarism softwares will not be able to detect this. Why? Because we have paraphrased the entire information, so it will not be able to detect it. However, still it's a plagiarism. And then we must cite that. So these things can be reduced by taking multiple proofreading iterations. Correct? Sometimes we forgot to quote. This is again a type of unintentional plagiarism. The author cite a source, but forgot to put the quotation marks. When we do a direct copy, let's say if I'm taking a particular law or particular text directly from a source material into my article or paper or somewhere else, and I have cited also, but it's a direct copy. Now when we do a direct copy, citation is not sufficient. We have to put the quotation marks. That is mandatory. Without quotation marks, it is assumed that authors are falsely claiming the presented information. Now, let's say if we have if we haven't placed a citation, it is definitely intentional. But let's say if we have placed a citation and if we have forgotten quotation marks, then it is unintentional, because we are citing but forgot to put the quotation marks. So what we have to do, let's say this is one case. I borrowed this information from this following article, which is listed at the bottom of the slide. I cited the information. However, I forgot to put the quotation mark. Still, it's a plagiarism, unintentional plagiarism. I forgot to put the quotation marks. So now this is the correct way. We can borrow the information, but it shouldn't be like that entire article is copied from somewhere else. Again, then it's stitching the sources, right? So what we have to do is we have to put the quotation marks and put the citation. This is the exact or correct way when we are dealing with a direct copied information. And this should not be too much, maybe very less, maybe 1% or that kind of information can be copied across the entire article, right? Often we forget to put the footnotes. We have cited the information, we have cited the source, but let's say we forgot to put the footnote. We forgot to include the footnote about the specific information on the location of the source material. Now we forgot it. This is also unintentional. Sometimes we forget it, but that's not severe. Many times we do not use a footnotes, so which is okay. But if we are intending to use a footnotes, put them. The resourceful citer or stitching the sources. The authors, they do the paraphrasing of the original information. If there is a direct copy, they put the quotation marks also. They cite everything, right? But the entire article is just a copy, merely a copy from multiple sources. There is no novelty, lack of novelty, right? So the presented article is just a collection of existing works. It is allowed for a review paper, definitely, because that's a job. A review paper is nothing but just a collection of the existing works and present them in a consolidated way for paving the direction for the future research, right? But when we are doing a research paper, this is something not acceptable because it doesn't contain any original work. It's just a copy. We did copy, we do the paraphrasing, we cited everything, we stuffed all the information at one place. But often there is no novelty, correct? So it is called still a plagiarism. It is often challenging to identify this kind of case of plagiarism because plagiarism software will not be able to detect. And again, it will be like structured article, looks like another well-researched article, correct? So it's difficult to identify this. But let's say if someone identifies the original authors, if they raise this issue to the publisher, then they may raise a copyright strike also, correct? That this is just a copy, then it may be retracted after a few years. And so that's why we have to be careful with this kind of things. Incorrect paraphrasing. This is something when we translate the information, or maybe when we rewrite the information in our own words, right? The authors have well cited everything, paraphrased, everything is perfect. But by mistake, we couldn't understand the original meaning of this and we altered the meaning when rewriting. We altered the original meaning when rewriting this information. How can we overcome this? We have to establish our understanding multiple times. Sometimes it is better to have a co-author or a colleague for a peer review so that we can show this work or Now to them, so that we can ask them that, is my understanding correct? Am I changing the meaning? So two brains are always better than one to overcome these kind of issues. Right? Incorrect paraphrasing is considered as an accidental or unintentional plagiarism. It's not intentional, definitely. It's not intentional, definitely. Right? Often we copy from the Wikipedia. Now this days it is ChatGPT. Correct? Often we copy from the Wikipedia or ChatGPT or any AI tool. The common mistake to think that we don't need to reference this AI generated content or the other things, right? Copied from the Wikipedia. It's still in the public domain, but if you look at Wikipedia, it's citing everything. So we have to be careful. It is someone else's work and it must be referenced. Let's say if you are using any AI tool or maybe ChatGPT, we can use a size space plugin along with ChatGPT. They talk to each other and they cite from where the information is coming. This is something good that we should develop, practice, right? But always we cite from wherever the information is taken. Plagiarism and excuses, some of the common excuses which we make to ourselves or which students make to us, right? The common reasons behind the plagiarism is deadline or lack of time. We don't have time often, right? So that's why we face this. Exam period, students are in rush to submit the assignments or maybe lab reports or term papers or project reports. They copy. Lack of awareness or carelessness. Sometimes they are not aware of all these things. That's why this kind of sessions are useful, where the awareness can be built up. But sometimes just they go careless, right? And sometimes they get tempted, or if they are browsing over an internet, they just get a temptation to copy paste. Then they think that, okay, we'll think about later, but they just copy paste and it will stay there as is, right? They submit the thesis in hurry. Maybe there is a thesis submission due date for a PhD student or a master student, so they often copy, correct? Peer pressure, often it will be a pressure on us. If the departmental colleagues, they are publishing very well and we are not, then we want to increase our publication count and we start copying. Often students come and say, I don't know how to cite. Very good argument, right? They say, then please take a look at some training videos and learn how to cite, right? Everyone copies, so I did. This is another common excuse which we face often from these students. There are good researchers, those who are not doing it, set that as a reference and compare with them to enhance the quality of the work. Why should we just compare with the lower standard, right? Apply the same concept and compare with the higher standards to improve. Right? Everyone copies, so I did. Better you say, no one is copying, so I did not. I don't know how to write a research paper, so I copied. Then please learn how to write a research paper, yeah? Right? Go through the YouTube training videos, or maybe attend this kind of training videos, or talk to the supervisor, or maybe the other colleagues, or then learn how to write. I did not get enough time, so I copied and I did not cite. This could be a little bit of convincing idea. Sometimes students or professionals are extremely busy and they may not get time. The best way is to optimize the activities and find time for it, for proofreading or multiple revisions, right? I copied from online material and there was no author. Very often, do not refer to this kind of materials which has no author. There is no point. We have to refer to the authenticated materials. I did not record the original source information and I did not cite them. This could be a little bit of convincing argument. Let's say a student or we are writing a review paper, or maybe we are referring to, let's say, 50 or 100 research papers in our research work. Sometimes we may forget one or two, which is okay, but not for all. We cannot forget each and every citation, but one or two citations if we forget, which can be repairable. That is okay. Students, because of the poor writing skills, they copy. Fear of failure or discrimination, sometimes they copy. They want to look good, the paper should look good, so they copy. Or maybe the report should look like other students so that they get more marks, right? They copy. The demand for publications for an award of an academic degree. Let's say a PhD student wants to publish 2 papers. I don't know what's the number for different organizations and universities, it's different. Maybe assume, let's say, 2 papers, right, for finishing the PhD degree. So they start doing all these things to get papers very quickly, right? Individual professionals often what they do, because of the peer pressure, let's say my colleague is doing extremely well and I'm not. So what I will do is I will start copying and I will start publishing this kind of papers for peer pressure to increase my visibility. I want to be successful very quickly, so I'll start doing that. I have a promotion, so that I'll start, because I have to show, let's say, 6 or 7 papers before the promotion. I want to increase my publication counts, I copy. I want to increase my citation counts, correct? All these things. I start doing this kind of unethical practices. And these are the common reasons and excuses. There are some sort of reasons from institutional priorities also, such as, let's say, they want to win many research grants, right? So they will force us to write many research project proposals for grants, right? So then we are forced to write too many, and then we end up doing this kind of unethical practices. To increase the institutional ranking through the research activities. Let's say each and every institute has a national or international rank, and they want to increase that. So they will force all the employees, or they will streamline all the employees to work in that particular direction to accomplish more number of research articles and establish the good research, right? Now, this is a good intention. Institutes or universities' intention is good, but often that gets translated in some other direction, and the professionals start doing the unethical practices. Departmental pressure to improve the academic and research performance. Some of the departments, they are doing extremely well, and some of the departments, they don't do extremely well. So they push their departmental colleagues to improve the performance, and then there's a lot of huge pressure. If the balance is not maintained, they start doing this kind of unethical practices. Establish an international collaboration, aim for publishing in prestigious journals and conferences, right? We want to publish too many papers. Sometimes it is applicable to the publishers also. Publishers, they want to publish many articles so that their site score and impact factor gets increased. So they do the poor or inefficient review process. They take garbage articles and they publish. Some of the publishers, they are just paid publishers. They take the money and publish in a week or 7 days, right? Competition among the journals to publish more articles. These are the several reasons and excuses of plagiarism. There are certain consequences also. So depending on the plagiarism severity, the penalty would be decided, right? So there could be mild consequences also, such as, let's say, minor text copying. I have just did it. Could be self-plagiarism or accidental plagiarism, etc. And this can be rectified. They may ask an apology later and explanation along with the correction. So they may ask authors to correct it, and maybe an apology later also, right? There could be some sort of severe consequences also when it is a copyright violation of IPRs. Let's say there are patents, other things, right? Or IPRs, there are copyright violations, stealing the idea, or severe copying or duplication, exact copy, correct? See, then there will be serious consequences of the plagiarism. Sometimes could result in the expulsion from the institute also. Authors may be blacklisted or banned from the future submissions. There could be a retraction or withdrawal of the article also. Institute may cancel the degree also. If, let's say, PhD student is passed out and we found out the plagiarism case later and it is extremely plagiarized content, then we cancel the degree also, right? We suspend the degree also. Fired from a job, that could also be possible. Criminal charges, specifically when we copy or leak the industry information. This is not applicable to academicians, but let's say a student is working after his PhD in industry, specifically applicable to engineering branches. As students go to, let's say, as software engineers, and they, let's say, leak the company's proprietary material such as a software release or something, or they may sell it to the competitor, other companies, right? In that particular case, this will result in intellectual property rights, specifically when they are protected through the Patents and Copyrights Acts, right? Then it would be a breach of copyrights, which may result in the legal consequences. The original authors or companies or organizations, those are holding the copyrights, they may claim their IPRs and may demand for ratification for the breach of copyrights. There would be some sort of mild consequences for the accidental copyrights, and there could be severe consequences also, such as, let's say, apology later and financial penalty that we have to pay, or transfer the entire profit through the commercial activities transfer the entire profit to the commercial activity. Sometimes there could be an imprisonment also, losing a current job, fired from the current job, future jobs also be declined because of this particular dent in the profile. The authors may be banned from publishing. Let's say if you are banned from publishing from one particular publisher for multiple years, the entire progress will be stagnated, right? There could be legal proceedings and imprisonment. It could be, especially in the case of industries, proper IPS violations, right? We cannot, there is a non-disclosure agreement. We cannot disclose the information in public, right? If you look at this, if there are 0 to 10% cases, similarity of 0 to 10%, there won't be any penalty. It's allowed. As we discussed, some of the fields, they may have this bit of increased number, such as let's say 20%. Then 10 to 30% revise and resubmit, bring it down below 10%. And 30 to 50%, they may ask for withdrawing the manuscript, or they may bear from submitting the new script for 1 year. The penalty could be a demotion, or future increments can be dropped also if it is, let's say, greater than 50%. Sometimes university may not allow us to guide a PhD student as a supervisor for 2 to 3 years. Now, this is a severe case, because if it doesn't allow, the entire progress gets stopped or stagnated. Sometimes we may be fired from a current job. It's specifically applicable to the private universities or institutes. So, for a safer side, we bring the plagiarism below 10%, so there won't be any trouble. We use Turnitin for checking the plagiarism. If there are any copyright infringements on images, we have to redraw the images. The images cannot be copied. Now the problem is Turnitin or any other software cannot detect these images as a plagiarized content, because it is just checking the text. So we have to redraw the image also. Same thing is applicable to music, video, text, any field. We have to redraw the image or take a reusage or license from the publisher. To reuse the particular image, to reuse the particular image. Sometimes we have to pay the reusage fee also, sometimes it is free also. It depends on which kind of license it is published, under which kind of license it is published, right? There are certain tips to avoid the plagiarism. First one, paraphrasing followed by the citations. Always paraphrase and cite. Rewrite the information which we have borrowed and credit all the sources. So here you can see this information has been taken or borrowed from these particular sources, and I cited all the sources. Often we take the picture, photograph, diagram, data, etc. Right? We must cite the source for that. For example, this diagram is taken from this particular source, which is listed here at the bottom of the slide. Right? I cannot just copy directly. I have to cite, redraw also. Some of the articles are published under CC BY license, such as, let's say, this presentation is under CC BY license, which means it is Creative Commons and CC 4.0 BY license. So, which means I am allowing everyone to reuse it for their good purpose, right? So, I'm not restricting anyone from using my article or from using my work, right? So this is, we have to see if it is under Creative Commons 4.0 by license, we can use it directly without any trouble. We have to definitely cite. But if it is, let's say, under some sort of commercial license or under some sort of strict license, we cannot reuse it directly. We have to pay the image reuse charge or redraw it with our novelty and then bring it forward. Tip. If we are using a material directly, copy paste it, put it under the quotation marks and cite them, such as the example what we had just seen. Citing the sources in the presentations. Now, people will put the sources at the end and say these are the list of references, but that's not the correct way of citing the sources in PPT, because the PPTs, the presentations, the viewers are viewing on the screen. They're not going to go at the end and see which reference it is, right? They're going to at the bottom of the slide and then they're going to read the reference. Okay, this is from where it is coming. And it's easy also for them to view. So that's why we have to cite at the bottom of the slide. At the bottom of this slide, if any information, if we are providing or any reader wants to go through, such as let's say this information, you can take a look. I'm using these two images from this source number 3 and source number 4. You will find these images on these two sources exactly. Correct? So if I've used any image or anything, I have to cite that. You can cite in brackets also. That is also okay. Same way here also, in this way you can cite, maybe on PPT you can cite by putting the number here or stars here or brackets here. That's okay. How you cite doesn't matter, but we have to cite. Quotation marks, again, if it comes on PPT, we have to cite. Some of the common tips to avoid plagiarism: we have to differentiate others' idea and ours idea, and then we have to claim the contribution that this is my novel contribution. Always reference or cite the sources. Identify and note down all the sources and which we can trace when we write. Plan our time so that we can do the multiple times proofreading, correct? And consult the supervisor. If we are not good at writing, we can request him to cross-check our work, and then we can improve, right? Always avoid the secrets and be honest. Admit if we don't know something, because there is a scope for improvement. If we admit it, sooner we admit, better it is, right? And admit the mistakes, work on the solutions, develop the reading habit that will widen the view. And then if you're not sure about something, whether it's plagiarism or not, then always cite it, because that is at a safer side. Paraphrase and cite. Plagiarism is exposed, admit it, and look for the solutions, how to overcome it. Don't wait until it is exposed. Right? If it is, you know it, right? It's copied, correct? If you don't know it, that's okay. The percentage is allowed, around 20% it may allow to copy. But if you know it, let's overcome it. How can we do that? Multi-stage writing process. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, proofreading, right? Multiple times we can rewrite. Direct students to demonstrate the work as they progress through the writing process, correct? Check the intermediate time and milestones, whether they are doing good or not. Otherwise, at the last day, they'll copy and give a final version of the copied article. Identify accidental plagiarism and intentional plagiarisms, and instruct the students to eliminate or rewrite those things and cite them. Gather and planning stage. So gathering and planning stage, ask them to spend a lot of time in that. So, and when they track all the references, ask them to take a note. Instruct the students to go through the detailed planning before they even start. So generally what we do is make a plan, right? That 1 month for, let's say, literature survey, 1 month for the work, 1 month for the writing, 2 months for proofreading and other things, and we see that okay, he's on the track. Gather all the required literatures, note the respective sources. These days it is easy. SciSpace is a good tool. This is really a good tool. SciSpace will give a track of all the literature what we are using. Sometimes people use Zotero or maybe Mendeley. That's okay. Whichever you are comfortable, you can use it, right? Be aware of the plagiarism. We can sensitize the students by attending this kind of sessions, correct? We can ask them. If your students are there, I have some sort of recorded materials, recorded my lectures, which I'll put in the chat box. So those students can go through these recordings, and they can build the awareness on the plagiarism. Instruct the students to integrate your suggestions and comments. When we give us comments to the students, most of them, they do not attend the comments seriously or carefully, and then they come with a copy again. Revision stage, encourage them to revise, and each time they revise, they have to come up with sort of, let's say, 20% of improvement in the writing quality and cut down the plagiarism, correct? Plagiarized, we have to identify the plagiarism content, because that's our job as a faculty, because they'll come and copy definitely. That's a job to eliminate it. So we have to identify the plagiarized content and lines and sentences and diagrams, equations, music videos, data, etc. And last minute review process. We have to check everything in the last, that everything is fine or not, and restate the sentences more concisely. And teach them the paraphrasing skills. Now this test it is easier because of the AI tools and other things. And then do the final check and employ the extensive review process with multiple revision stages. Assign or approve the topics to the students and avoid copying events, and do not allow them any last minute changes. So when they change in the last minute, they come up with the copied content. So we don't allow any last minute changes. Employ rewrite options very frequently. You employ rewrite option very frequently to enhance the quality and eliminate the plagiarism. Teach the culture of earned trust. And that's all we have for our today's session. Thank you.